The moment my phone buzzed at 2:46 a.m., I already knew it wasn't good news. I wiped the tears from my eyes, turned the screen, and saw the message. Hope you're already prepping, sweetheart. 27 guests. Don't disappoint. It was from Barbara, my mother-in-law. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to tell you is the story of how I went from being my mother-in-law's invisible servant to the woman who finally walked away and left her birthday party in ruins. But let me take you back 3 days. I was standing in the kitchen, elbow deep in hot water, scrubbing plates after another long dinner. My husband David was in the living room with his phone, scrolling like always, when Barbara marched in holding a folded piece of paper. "Anna, darling," she said with that sharp smile of hers, "we need to talk about preparations for my birthday." I dried my hands on a dish towel and forced a polite smile. "Of course, Barbara. What do you need me to do?" David looked up briefly, then down at his phone again. I saw that flicker between him and his mother, the one that always meant they knew what was coming, and I was just the audience. Barbara unfolded the paper with a flourish. "Here's the guest list for Thursday. Let's see. Kelly and her new boyfriend. Uncle Robert. The Carters from across town. That's 26. Oh, 27 with little Timmy Carter. He's only 6, but cook a full portion for him too. The boy's growing." Her laugh was like ice cracking in a glass of whiskey, sharp, cold, unpleasant. 27. I whispered, my stomach sinking. She patted my arm like I was a child. "Don't worry, sweetheart. You always do so well with large gatherings. Remember Christmas last year? Everyone raved about your turkey. You'll manage." David finally muttered, eyes still glued to his phone. "Yeah, Anna, you've got this. You always do." Then Barbara pulled out a second sheet. Her handwriting was neat, every letter sharp as a knife. "Menu," she announced. 2 turkeys with herbs. 1 glazed ham. 7 side dishes. 4 desserts, from scratch, of course. Homemade rolls, hot from the oven. Cranberry sauce, pecan pie, and don't forget the stuffing. No shortcuts this time. My hands tightened around the dish towel. "Barbara, that's too much for one person." She waved the words away like smoke. "Don't be dramatic. You've done it before. And David will help. Right, son?" David glanced up and nodded. "Sure. I can carve the turkey. And open the wine." I stared at him, my throat tightening. "That's not help, David. That's just showing up." Barbara ignored me completely. "Anna, you'll need to start around 4 in the morning if dinner's at 2 o'clock. Actually, better make it 3:30. The Carters don't tolerate lateness." I wanted to scream. Instead, the words came out automatic, flat, like change handed to a cashier. "All right. I'll make it perfect." Barbara smiled, satisfied, and folded her list. "That's my girl. We'll make it a celebration to remember." She swept out of the kitchen. David followed her with his eyes, then went back to his phone as if nothing had happened. Later that night, after Barbara had gone to bed, David sat in his office working. I pulled out my calculator and tried to do the math. 2 turkeys, 8 hours in the oven. Ham for hours. Desserts needed to be baked a day in advance. Side dishes in the morning. The schedule didn't fit. No matter how I shifted things, there weren't enough hours, not enough hands. I picked up Barbara's guest list again, ran my finger down the neat lines of names. When I reached the bottom, I froze. My name wasn't there. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't family. I wasn't even invited. At the bottom, in Barbara's small, neat script, it said, "Rachel not invited." Rachel was my sister-in-law. She'd gotten divorced 3 months ago, and Barbara had decided she wasn't appropriate for family celebrations anymore. Just like that. Crossed off. And me? I wasn't even crossed off. I'd never been on the list to begin with. I was the cook. The help. The machine that turned groceries into applause for Barbara. I sat there in the dark kitchen, staring at that paper, and felt something inside me crack. For 6 years I had scrubbed, chopped, baked, roasted. My hands burned from hot water, my back ached from hours on my feet. And in return, criticism about stuffing being too dry. A nod from David as he opened another bottle of wine. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a daughter-in-law. I was an appliance with a smile setting. And at 2:46 a.m., when Barbara sent me that message, I knew something had to change. Costco always smelled like a mix of pizza slices and disinfectant, but that morning it felt like the air itself was pressing down on me. My cart was already piled high: 2 frozen turkeys, a glazed ham, bags of potatoes, onions, carrots, sacks of flour and sugar, cartons of eggs and milk. Every time I thought I was finished, I remembered another item from Barbara's list. 7 sides. For desserts. Fresh rolls. By the time I reached the checkout line, the cart looked less like groceries and more like kitchen chaos. Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor, was in line behind me with nothing but a carton of eggs and a box of cereal. She raised her eyebrows at the mountain in my cart. "Big dinner?" she asked with a half smile. I tried to laugh, but it came out flat. "My mother-in-law's birthday. 27 people." Her smile disappeared. She shook her head slowly, almost pitying me. "Alone? Honey, that's not help. That's like standing on the dock and waving at someone drowning." I forced a smile, but inside I froze. The words hit like a stone sinking in my stomach. Back home, the kitchen transformed into a kitchen chaos. Every inch of counter space was buried under cutting boards, mixing bowls, and half-chopped vegetables. The smell of raw onions stung my eyes. By the 3rd hour, my back already ached. By the 6th, my feet burned. David came home from golf around noon, his skin tanned, polo shirt neatly tucked, a whiff of beer clinging to him. He stepped into the kitchen, looked around at the chaos, and grinned like he'd walked into a Food Network set. "Wow," he said, stretching. "You're really going all out this year. Smells amazing, babe. You're like a real chef." I was wrist-deep in stuffing, my fingers sticky with bread, herbs, and cranberries. Sweat dripped down my temple. I glanced at him, exhausted. "Can you help?" "Just for a bit." My voice cracked. "These turkeys need to be stuffed. It's hard alone." He checked his watch and winced. "Today? I promised the guys I'd stay for an extra round. I'm wiped. Tomorrow I'll help before the guests arrive. Promise." I stopped mixing. My hands stilled in the bowl. I stared at him. "Tomorrow?" I asked quietly. He smiled, oblivious. "Yeah. I'll carve the turkey, open some wine, make sure everything looks good. You'll have it all ready by then anyway, right?" I looked at him, the man I married, the man who was supposed to be my partner. He stood there so casual, so sure that I would hold everything together. I felt something inside me stretch thin, like a thread about to snap. I wanted to scream. "You think carving a turkey and opening wine makes you part of this? You think that's help?" But instead, I said nothing. I just turned back to the bowl, shoving the stuffing inside the hollow bird, my fingers trembling with anger. By evening, the kitchen smelled of roasted garlic and rising dough. My hands were raw, my apron stained. David lounged in the living room, laughing at something on his phone. From time to time, he called out, "Smells great," as if compliments could balance the scales. I chopped, stirred, baked. Timer after timer went off, a relentless reminder that no matter how fast I moved, there was always more. At one point, I caught myself staring at the guest list still lying on the counter. 27 names. Not mine. Not Rachel's. We were workers, not guests. And that was the moment the neighbor's words came back to me. That's like standing on the dock and waving at someone drowning. For 6 years, I had been drowning. And everyone else had been waving. I slid the turkeys into the fridge, wiped my hands on a towel, and leaned against the counter, staring at the chaos of my kitchen. And for the first time, a new thought entered my mind. A thought so foreign it scared me. What if I just didn't cook? What if I left the oven cold, the counters empty, the fridge full of raw ingredients? What if Barbara and David had to face 27 hungry guests without me to save them? I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. But it clung to me, sticky as the cranberry jam on my fingers. Because deep down I knew it wasn't crazy. It was the only thing that made sense. I didn't need an alarm that night. My eyes snapped open on their own. The glowing red numbers on the nightstand read 2:46 a.m. For a long moment I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to David's steady snore beside me. My body was heavy, aching, every muscle screaming from the marathon of chopping, baking, roasting. But my mind was awake. I slipped out of bed, padded downstairs barefoot, and opened my laptop on the kitchen table. My hands shook as I typed, not from exhaustion, but from something sharper: resolve. One-way ticket, Miami. Flight 5:05 a.m. Click. Confirm. Purchase. The confirmation email popped into my inbox, neat and undeniable. By the time Barbara's birthday party began, I would be sipping coffee at an airport cafe 2 states away. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't going to be the cook. I wasn't even going to be there. I pulled the small suitcase from the closet and began to pack. A yellow sundress I hadn't worn in years. A pair of sandals. A swimsuit still with tags. It didn't matter that Miami in December was cooler than summer, it would be warmer than this house. Warmer than Barbara's cold eyes. As I zipped the suitcase, voices floated down the hallway. I froze. David's phone buzzed on the nightstand upstairs. A second later, his groggy voice answered. Hello? Mom? It's what? It's almost 3 in the morning. Barbara's voice, sharp even through the crackle of speakerphone. Jason, make sure Anna doesn't mess this up. She's not good under pressure. I want you to check that she's awake by 3. She has to start prepping now. The guests won't wait. David sighed. Relax, Mom. She always pulls through. She always does. The words cut deeper than any knife. She always pulls through. Like I wasn't a person, just a reliable kitchen appliance. I stood there in the dark hallway, suitcase handle in my grip, and something inside me hardened. Leaving would be satisfying. But leaving quietly? That would be too easy for them. Back in the kitchen, I opened the refrigerator and pulled out the turkeys and the ham. Cold, heavy, raw. I placed them right on the counter, along with the bags of vegetables, the bowls of prepped stuffing, Barbara's handwritten menu, all of it. Then I reached for a pen and wrote the first note. On Barbara's menu, right under her elegant list of cranberry sauce, pecan pie, and homemade rolls, I scrawled. Barbara, you wanted control? Now it's yours. The menu, the groceries, the kitchen. 27 guests. Show them how perfect you are. I laid the note back on the counter, folded neatly under her list, exactly where she would see it first. Then I took another piece of paper and wrote the second note, short and simple, and placed it by the coffee maker where David would find it when he stumbled into the kitchen later that morning. Something came up. Dinner is your responsibility. Food's in the fridge. Don't be late for carving the turkey. I stepped back, looking at the 2 notes, the raw meat, the chaos waiting to explode. For once, it wasn't my problem. For once, Barbara and David would have to face the consequences of their endless demands. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I zipped my suitcase shut, slipped on my coat, and grabbed my passport. On my way out, I paused in the doorway, turned, and looked one last time at the kitchen where I had spent 6 years of my life breaking my back, burning my hands, swallowing my pride. This time, it would burn without me. I smiled, switched off the light, and pulled the door closed behind me. At 3:45 a.m., a cab pulled up in front of the house. The driver leaned out the window, yawning. Airport? Yes, I said, sliding into the back seat. As the car pulled away, I glanced back at the house. The lights were still out. Barbara was probably dreaming of applause, David of carving turkey in front of his family. Neither of them knew what awaited them. By the time they woke up, I would be gone. By the time the guests arrived, the house would be filled with panic, smoke, and silence. And for the first time, Barbara's party would be unforgettable, but not for the reasons she wanted. David woke up at 8 that morning with a rare sense of peace. The sun crept in through the blinds, the house was quiet, and for once he thought maybe things were under control. He stretched, yawned, and padded downstairs in his slippers, expecting to be greeted by the smell of garlic, onions, and rising bread. But when he opened the kitchen door, the silence hit him first. The second thing was the fridge. Turkeys still raw, ham untouched, counters completely bare. And right by the coffee machine, a single note. He read it once, twice, 3 times. Something came up. Dinner is your responsibility. Food's in the fridge. Don't be late for carving the turkey. Anna? His voice cracked. He searched the bathroom, the guest room, even the garage. No suitcase. No clothes in the closet. She was gone. By 9, he was on the phone with Rachel. Rachel, is Anna with you? Please tell me she's with you. Her voice was still sleepy. With me? No. Why would she be? She's not here. She left. Just a note. Mom's birthday dinner, 27 people, and she walked out. What am I supposed to do? Rachel paused for a long moment, then laughed, sharp and bitter. Oh, Jason, I almost don't believe it. She finally did it. She finally said no. This isn't funny, Rachel, he snapped. People are expecting food, they're expecting her cooking. I can't let them all show up to nothing. Rachel's voice hardened. Then tell Barbara to put on an apron. It's her birthday, let her cook for once in her life. And before he could answer, she hung up. By 11, Jason had called 10 restaurants. 27 people, this afternoon. I'll pay extra. Every reply was the same. Too big, too late. One place offered pizza. Another told him flat out he was crazy. When Barbara stormed in at noon, Jason was pale, sweating, and nearly hysterical. She walked in like a general onto a battlefield, sleeves rolled up, lipstick perfect. Start the ovens. Where are the turkeys? Still raw, Jason admitted, pointing to the fridge. Barbara yanked them out, her arms trembling. Then crank the temperature, Jason. We'll make it work. That's not how it works, Mom. They need 8 hours. You can't just blast the oven and hope it cooks faster. Don't argue with me. We don't have a choice. People are coming. Jason slammed the oven door shut. We do have a choice. And the choice should have been not dumping this on Anna in the first place. Barbara froze, staring at him, then shook her head. She knew what this meant. She knew how important this day was. And she humiliated me. Jason's voice rose, raw with frustration. She didn't humiliate you, Mom. You humiliated yourself by treating her like free labor. Did you ever think about that? Barbara's jaw tightened. Careful, Jason. She's turned you against your own mother. He threw up his hands. No, Mom. You did that. You and your endless lists and your demands and your Anna will manage. Well, guess what? Anna didn't manage this time. And neither will we. By 1 o'clock, the kitchen was chaos. Potatoes boiled over. Smoke poured from the stove. The fire alarm screamed, and Jason cursed as he waved a towel at it. Barbara barked orders like a drill sergeant. Where's the big mixing bowl? I don't know, Mom. Anna always, he stopped, realizing what he'd just said. Barbara rounded on him. She's not here, Jason. Think for once in your life. His face reddened. I am thinking. But all I can think about is how much we depended on her and how little we gave back. Barbara's voice cracked, the first sign of weakness. This isn't fair. She made me look like a fool. Jason's eyes burned as he shouted, No, Mom. You made yourself look like a fool. She just finally stopped covering for you. At 1:15 p.m., Jason's phone buzzed. He wiped his hands on a towel and picked it up. His face went slack. It was a photo. Anna, smiling in a yellow sundress, sunlight spilling over her bare shoulders. A glass of white wine raised in a toast. A plate of shrimp in front of her, the ocean behind her. The caption. Dinner in paradise. Tell Barbara the turkey's all hers. Jason turned the phone toward his mother. Barbara's face went from pale to flushed to pale again. She clutched the counter with trembling hands. She's mocking me, she whispered. Jason's voice was hoarse, exhausted. No, Mom. She's finally free of you. And maybe I wish I was too. The smoke alarm shrieked again. The kitchen stank of burned butter. The turkeys were still raw. And for the first time, Barbara had no words. By 2 o'clock, the house was full of guests. The living room buzzed softly with laughter, quiet chatter, and the clinking of glasses. But something was clearly missing. The smell. By now, Anna's house would normally be filled with the aroma of roasted turkey, fresh bread, caramel, and spices. Today the air was empty, heavy, with only a faint hint of smoke from the kitchen. The guests exchanged glances. Where's Anna? Kelly asked first, slipping off her coat. She usually has everything on the table by now. Barbara, in pearls and a perfectly coiffed hairstyle, stepped forward and raised her glass of wine. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were hard. Anna had some circumstances, she said, dragging out the words. But don't worry, everything is under control. We'll still have a wonderful evening. The room fell quiet. A few people exchanged uncertain looks. Circumstances? Uncle Robert echoed. What kind of circumstances keep the hostess away on a milestone birthday? Barbara lifted her chin. She's not the hostess. She just helps. Helps, someone from the back asked. So that means she's been doing all the cooking by herself? Barbara hesitated. Her lips trembled. Well, she enjoys it. It's her hobby. A ripple of awkward, unkind laughter rolled through the room. And suddenly, the living room TV came to life. The big screen, where Barbara had planned to show a slideshow titled, The Miller Family, Our Best Moments, displayed something else. Anna appeared on screen. Exhausted, wearing an apron, her hands red, standing in the kitchen surrounded by mountains of dishes. Her voice was calm, but every word hit home. If you're watching this, it means Barbara is celebrating without me. For 6 years, I have cooked every meal, every birthday, every Thanksgiving. I wasn't on the guest list. I was only the labor behind it. Today I decided to stop. The food is in the fridge, the recipes are on the counter. Enjoy Barbara's hospitality. The room froze. A few women covered their mouths. The children stopped running and sat silently on the floor. Jason jumped up. What is this? How did she? Barbara turned pale. Turn it off. Jason, turn it off right now. He lunged for the laptop, but the video continued. Now the screen showed footage from the middle of the night call, Barbara dictating instructions to her son, her voice sharp and commanding. Jason, make sure Anna doesn't mess this up. She's not good under pressure. Check she's awake by 3. Jason closed his eyes, his face flushing red. The guests stared at him. Anna reappeared. I was never invited to sit at the table. I was only asked to serve it. And today, I'm done. Silence fell over the room. It was broken only when Rachel walked in, holding a pot of chili and a large salad. She set the food down on the table and turned to the guests. Now you know the truth. Her voice was firm and clear. For years, Anna was treated like a servant, not as a wife or daughter-in-law. She carried this family's parties on her back. And Barbara? Barbara criticized her stuffing and called it tradition. Barbara flushed, stepping forward. This is sabotage. She did this just to humiliate me on my birthday. Rachel met her gaze with a cold smile. No, Barbara. She just stopped protecting you. You humiliated her for 6 years. Today, she showed everyone. The room murmured. I thought Anna liked to cook. That's why she always looked exhausted. Wait, she wasn't even on the guest list? Uncle Robert stood. Barbara, is this true? She did all this alone year after year, and you took the credit? Barbara trembled, her wine glass shaking in her hand. I just wanted everything to be perfect. It's my day. I deserved. And she didn't? Rachel cut in sharply. She didn't deserve even 1 day off from being chained to the stove? Jason buried his face in his hands, his voice cracking. Stop. Please, just stop. Everyone turned to him. Mom, he exhaled, they're right. You made her do everything, and I let it happen. We all let it happen. Barbara turned to her son, her eyes full of panic. Jason, are you taking her side? Against your own mother. He looked at her, tired and broken. No, Mom. I'm just facing the truth for the first time in years. At that moment, the video ended. The screen froze on Anna's face, not tired, not broken, but free, wearing a soft, calm smile. The silence in the room was louder than any scream. By 8 in the evening, the house was empty. The guests had left, taking with them nothing but half-empty glasses, scraps of bread, and the heavy whispers that would echo through the neighborhood for weeks. Jason stood in the living room, staring at the kitchen that looked like a battlefield. Smoke from the oven still lingered in the air. Flour clung to his shoes. The turkeys had never been served. The perfect birthday Barbara had promised was a complete disaster. Rachel silently scrubbed a pot in the sink. There was no anger in her eyes, just exhaustion. "Do you understand now?" she asked quietly, not turning around. Jason lowered his head. "Yes, I do. I never realized how it looked from the outside. I thought Anna managed." Rachel spun toward him, holding a wet plate that dripped onto the floor. "She didn't manage, Jason. She broke herself every single time, and you and your mother just said, 'She's so good at this.' She kept silent, hoping someone would notice. But no one ever did." Jason dragged a hand down his face, leaving streaks of flour and grease. "I screwed up. I was blind." Rachel shook her head. "Blindness isn't an excuse. You saw it. You just didn't want to admit it." Barbara sat in the corner of the living room, pearls crooked on her neck, hair undone. She no longer looked like the hostess of a grand celebration, but like an actress thrown off the stage. "They all laughed at me," she whispered. "This is what they'll remember. Not my birthdays, not my parties, just this humiliation." Rachel's gaze was cold. "And Anna remembered every comment you made. Every time you said the stuffing was dry, that the salad could have been better. Now you finally know what it feels like, when everyone's watching, when everyone judges. The difference is Anna lived it for 6 years. You only had one night." Barbara shot to her feet. "She destroyed my family." Jason's voice was low but steady. "No, Mom. She just left because this family was destroying her." Barbara's mouth opened, but no words came out. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, the slam of the door echoing through the empty house. Jason stood alone in the wreckage of the kitchen. Rachel pressed a sponge into his hand. "Start with this," she said flatly. "Maybe you'll feel a fraction of what she felt." He looked at her, wanting to protest, but couldn't. The stack of dirty dishes towered over him, the stench of smoke and grease clinging to the walls. He sighed and turned on the faucet. Near midnight, Jason finally picked up his phone and dialed Anna's number. Rings. Then her voice, calm, confident, a tone he hadn't heard from her in years. "Hello. Anna, it's me. Are you safe?" A pause, then a soft laugh. "I'm wonderful, Jason. Wine, the ocean, and not a single dirty dish. What about you?" He closed his eyes. "No, I'm terrible. I screwed everything up. Tonight I finally saw what you went through all those years. I'm sorry." Silence. Then her voice, cool but not cruel. "Realizing it is one step. But one step doesn't make a road. What are you going to do next?" He glanced at his hands in the soapy water, at the mountain of dishes waiting for him. "First, I'm going to finish this kitchen. And then, I want to be better. I promise I'll change." Her laugh was short, almost kind. "We'll see, Jason. For now, wash the dishes." And she hung up. Jason stood in the empty kitchen, sponge in hand, suds dripping onto the floor. For the first time in 6 years, he was alone with the mess. And for the first time, he understood, Anna's revenge hadn't been shouting. It had been silence, a plane ticket to Miami, and the sound of someone else finally scrubbing the pans. Sometimes revenge isn't yelling. It's silence, a plane ticket, and the sound of someone else finally scrubbing the pans.